Um, the amount that we were awarded was based on projectives and very little narrative. Only 27 of 36 counties in Oregon had elected to do a deflection program that we were told was supposed to allow the other counties that did decide to do, or the 27 that did decide to do deflection programs to get more funding. However, our county still only got the floor amount. So between Hoover and Wasco County, it's 150K per year per county, which is a total of 600K that both counties share for the program. So that amount does limit LEED's ability to hire another team member. So as of right now, it is myself, the program manager, and our one sole lead navigator that performs outreach and case management in the field. We do, however, have access to Hood River County's opioid settlement funds. The issue with that is they are finite and we only have limited time, 5 years from the time we receive the funds to use those funds. And then once they're spent, they are gone. So we are going to continue looking for other funding sources so we can hire another team member to perform outreach and navigation. From there, fiscal year 27 through 29, the biennium rules are going to change. About 25% of the award will be based on competitive means. Our program status, actually this changed as of today, but as of April 2nd, since March 2025, we have received, as you see, 76 referrals. 8 of them have been diverted to other services. And what that means is they didn't necessarily enroll in the LEAD program or choose to engage with the program, but we were able to get them set up with other community services that essentially diverted them from law enforcement contact and or systems contacts. New participants enrolled in LEAD since then are a total of 15. Right now, we have a total of 6 active participants. We have 6 alumni so far. So alumni status, how you reach that, and instead of doing like an end date with our LEAD program or a graduation date where you're just done and finished and it's like good luck, with your future. It's more like you are ready for the next thing. You don't need the LEAD program to guide you to any form of stability more because you've reached that point where you kind of can go off on your own. And from there, if you ever needed lead again, it's an open door policy. They can always come back and become an active participant again. So that's what's really important about the alumni status versus other deflection programs in the state that have chosen to have graduations. So a total of 24 individuals either have been diverted or have been diverted from in some fashion and from the criminal justice system or just using systems in general. One thing about the last slide, and you can just leave it on this one, or that's fine. The reason these numbers actually have changed since that date, and they tend to change every week, is, for example, we had a call or a message come in over the weekend about an individual that had escaped a domestic violence situation in Portland and had come out to the Dalles for safety reasons almost a year ago. And she was getting services from, I believe it's Bountiful Blessings. And they had a stack of our cards, and she was expressing them how she felt like she couldn't get connected to services to better her life or stabilize her life. She's homeless. She has been clean and sober from drugs for a while, but is afraid in her living circumstances that she's going to fall back into it. And she just was not feeling safe in her current state of living. So they encouraged her to reach out to the LEAD program. And as soon as we got the message, we discussed it this morning, myself and our lead navigator, Nick Smallman, and made the decision to look into transitional housing for her. We found out they had emergency bedding. We were able to get her there today in a facility that will have her in the emergency housing for 30 days. They'll connect her to a case manager within 3 days. And then from there, after the 30 days, get her into long-term transitional housing with ground services. So that's just a complete 180 from where she was over the weekend when she left us that message. And that's why this program is so, so important. Now, this slide is to go over what we project to get for lead referrals during the current biennium that we're in. These pathway types that are on the screen are all ones that the CJC has defined as pathways for referrals into deflection programs. For all eligible pathways, we expect to get about 433 referrals altogether during this biennium. Total enrolled, we expect from all pathways combined 50. And with current capacity for enrolled participants, we can manage probably about 15 to 20 individuals, just depending on what their needs are and how intensive that case management is. Some new initiatives that our program's doing. We have launched a local lead website. You all have one of my business cards. On the back, there is a QR code that will take you straight to our local website that represents both Hood River and Wasco counties. We have built a system that tracks our spend in outreach and in community interactions. And the reason for that is we need to present that data to be more competitive in the next biennium for the behavioral health deflection grant funds. We also are developing metrics for dollars and time saved for personnel time savings, booking and jail time, emergency and crisis system uses. And that last one was actually supposed to be a separate bullet. We're also exploring more program funding opportunities to increase our staffing. So our website does have a page on it where we can publish current metrics. I am curious to know what metrics are most valuable to the council, what you would like to see on there. For example, how many participants may be enrolled in case management at any given time would be one I would suggest. And you are welcome to email me directly with your suggestions for what you would like to see on the website.
Questions for Ms. Schilling?
Where are you located at? Or is it?
Right now, we have an office in the Dalles courthouse as well as the Hood River County Courthouse.
Okay, you have a Hood River address on your card, so
That is our main location for the time being.
Oh, okay. But you serve, obviously, it's Wasco County, yeah.
Yes, absolutely, both counties.
As far as looking for, I think this table is a good start, and I would hope that I'm sure you're gonna be updating it. I'd be interested in knowing that the updated numbers as you get further into the program.
Absolutely. Once we have more data to post on the website, we will.
Any other questions? Council Randall?
Just a couple questions. When does diversion occur? Is that after, I assume, like an arrest is made, or does anyone go before like a court and then they're diverted, or is this before they even go appear before a judge?
So the idea of lead is to be pre-arrest diversion. So how it works, for example, law enforcement can be interacting with an individual that may be experiencing homelessness, maybe substance use disorder, and they feel they would benefit more from a program that connects them to services that they need to reach stability in their life, rather than citing them and arresting them and cycling them through the criminal justice system over and over again. It's kind of a bad rinse and repeat cycle. And so they have the opportunity to divert those charges to lead rather than cite them.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor.
Council Ring?
Thanks. The total on your chart, you have 433 eligible. My immediate feedback would be I'd love to track like how your estimate is doing compared to the actual numbers, like as you go along. But also, are there other like funding opportunities? I imagine there's probably at some point a shortfall, right? So how does the city, like Hood River, the Dalles, both counties, like what's the future for expanding funding opportunities and stuff like that? Is there something that we should be looking out to advocate?
We are currently trying to explore more funding opportunities. Right now, it's very limited. As I mentioned previously, the next grant biennium for not 25, 27, 27, 29. I'm like, why am I forgetting this? For 27, 29, it's going to be more competitive based. So the more data that we collect and present, the more likely we're going to be competitive compared to other deflection programs and be able to get more funding. We're going to make a strong case for expanding at least with one more employee, if not even more. And we do have opioid settlement funds in the meantime to help us with some shortfall, but as we all know, those are finite and won't last forever. I do know I've been speaking with the CJC about any other sort of funding opportunities that they're exploring. And I know that they were exploring the SKIP grant. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It is a federal grant, and they're studying some language in it that says it can be used towards harm reduction, but in what ways they are unsure. So we're hoping that when they open up solicitation this summer, that we will be able to apply for additional funds, but that's not guaranteed yet. I haven't had an answer on what they have, decided what the wording means.
Okay. Last question. The folks that I believe I heard you mention that some of the people that come into the LEAD program, you're able to connect with other services that maybe aren't directly connected to LEAD itself, right? Are you able to track those metrics as well so you can add that to your competitive bid going forward, and what those outcomes may be?
So right now we have started tracking them as diverted and connected to other services.
Huh?
So that's anytime an individual may choose to not engage with LEAD or enroll in our program, or they may say, I'm only interested in mental health services at this time, and you've connected me to housing services. I don't really need your program. That still counts as some form of diversion, even if they're not going to enroll and become an alumni in the future.
Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else? Council Runyon?
This is all adults. primarily, not juvenile. They would go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100% are all adults.
Okay,
final- Um, one final piece, I am really optimistic. I know a funding question came up. I am optimistic of the 27-29 biennium. Within the spirit of 4002, our program is looked at, and I've heard it referred to as many different, many different terms, but kind of the gold standard. We are doing and following the spirit of the legislation. We are diverting people from the criminal justice system into community services. And then in addition to that, we are a consortium and the only program in the state. And so what both sheriffs looked at, Sheriff McGill and Sheriff English, is starting a program with $150,000 from the ground up didn't make sense. And so what they decided was to approach the CJC and ask if we can basically pool our money together, which is something we do, and we do really well, Center for Living, jail, different law enforcement programs. And so we have a track record of working really well together. And that is really being looked at the state level if other counties, rural counties, are able to mirror what we're doing. And so I am really optimistic that 25-27 was a formula grant, and unfortunately, we don't have the numbers that larger metro counties have, but that doesn't mean the impact isn't as important to us as the larger numbers. And so I am optimistic when it turns into more of a competitive, where we are stating statistics of what we are doing, that the dollars will follow. And so, hoping with that, but we will never be able to compete if the legislature is solely just looking at numbers, because we don't have them, but the impact is huge. And as Rebecca mentioned, the individual this morning, diverted, she's not in the area. She's not drawing law enforcement attention. She's not creating issues on the street. She is now housed and gaining services. So that's a huge win for all of us, and including Chief Worthy in the back. And so it's really a program that I think for so long, all of us worked really well, but we were all in silos. And so this is a first program that, in our area is working really closely with our community partners, has strong relationships. Leslie, the director of MCAC, is here to support today because they are one of our closest partners. And so it really is making a difference. And so that's just something that we are really proud of.
I'd like to just add one more thing. Ben, you mentioned earlier, is there anything that you should be looking at as the council for funding? And I would say, yes, we would love that.
okay. Last call for questions. Thank you both very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6 is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Interested citizens are required to sign up in advance to be recognized. As I mentioned before the meeting started, up to 3 minutes per person will be allowed. Citizens are encouraged to ask questions with the understanding that the city can either answer the question tonight or refer that question to the appropriate staff member who will get back to you within a reasonable amount of time. If a response by the city is requested and that response is not immediately provided, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. Okay, first is Chuck Gomez, beautification report.
Good early evening, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen of the public attendees. My name is Chuck Gomez, and I'm here to make our monthly report from the Beautification Committee. Our beautification committee has been meeting twice a month, and presently we are working with the Oregon Department of Forestry, updating and expanding our tree list for our giveaway program that takes place later this year. It's been going on for several years, and close to $20,000 of trees have been given away. One of the locations was that requested trees from the beautification committee was the Fort Dalles Museum. Well, we are working with them to find out exactly which trees they would like. They've lost some, and they are looking for oak and chestnut trees. Oh, you think big deal, oak and chestnut. Oh my gosh, there are so many kinds and types and species and subphylums, and they want to be very accurate, historically replacing the correct oak and chestnut trees. So we are working with them right now to replace those trees. Last time we reported that we had trees that had been requested by our school district. Some member of the council asked us, and which school is that? And I was remiss, not sure which exact school they were going to, but the middle school has requested all they can get, and we're looking at about a half dozen large maples for shade and picnicking to be placed at the middle school. Our next project of re-landscaping and redesigning the turnaround at the Lewis and Clark Park is on hold right now as we wait for herbicides to dissipate that are in the grounds right now, and we'll probably be ready to start that program up again next year. So it's just on a slight hold. There's already irrigation there, and possibly the base of a vintage antique street light post may be a center sculpture piece for that turnaround. And lastly, we had a recommendation from Jacob Anderson suggesting hanging planters. Well, we have been discussing hanging planters for a year or two for the city, and he kind of like gave us a nudge to get back on board. And we are now looking at 3 intersections, a total of 12 hanging baskets. We feel there's about a $5,000 budget requirement for this. So we are right now working on the financial terms and the maintenance for those. But if that little test program of those 3 intersections and 12 hanging baskets pan out, that might be something that the entire downtown would have. And to see a town with hanging flower baskets, it's really a lovely presentation of the community. And the baskets that we have found are built and designed in a way that they have a reservoir in the bottom of them, and through a wick system have a self-watering, so it's not a daily or every other day watering. It's more a once a week watering, and they kind of take care of themselves and perpetuate that way. So that concludes my beautification meeting report for this month, and thank you very much for your time.
Chuck, I've seen those baskets work in other communities, and they're really a beautiful thing
They're lovely.
They are.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nicole Beechler? I've just been told it's Beechler.
It's actually pronounced Beekler.
Ah,
Yes, it's a tricky one. Yeah. Well, good evening, council and constituents of the community behind me. My name is Nicole Beekler. Nicole has an H in it. I just learned from Amy that she has an H in her name as well, or she does not have an H, so she doesn't spell it correctly. I'm here before you this evening to just put a face with a name. I am running for Wasco County Commissioner position 1, and I am doing a road show to all of our city councils. So tonight is the Dalles. So I appreciate the opportunity to just say hello, introduce myself. If you would like to learn more about my candidacy, Nicole4, the number 4, wascocounty.com. And I also have a Facebook page, Nicole Beekler for Wasco County Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to say hello. And if there are members in the community that have questions, please feel free to pull me aside and ask questions or anything you want to know. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for staying within your 3 minutes.
I had to make up for Chuck.
Used to be.
I gave Chuck a little attitude because he is representing a city committee, so. Okay, Louise Langhira. I pronounced that right, didn't I?
All right. Louise Lungheinrich, 107 East 2nd Street, The Dalles, a downtown business owner. As you may have noticed, the river tour boat season has started, and we businesses are optimistic that we will see improved economics. But imagine my surprise as I find myself in a situation that's a repeat of 11 years ago between the city, Main Street, and the chamber. Back then, after the chamber wasn't able to develop a map for the tour boats, the city manager, Nolan Young at the time, directed Main Street to create one. That's how we came up with a detailed downtown directory map to market to our tour boats and also for the hotels. This is the map. You can see it's very detailed. This is just one that was put on a pad, and it's been updated for all these years. We have the ones in the kiosk, which we have 3 downtown. The city signed a tourism contract with the chamber for $465,000. And the tourism office has a responsibility to interact with the tour boats. Imagine my surprise again when I found out that the only information planned to be given to the boats are 2 QR codes. One link goes to Explore the Dalles, which then links to the chamber's membership directory. The other link goes to the chamber's calendar. How does this market downtown to riverboat guests? Supposedly, the chamber is generating a map, but it's high level and shows points of interest. Like this. This is good for general tourism, which is for our whole community. 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with the hotel general manager of the American Harmony, one of the boats, to see what they would like for their passengers. I was told a directory map, like what I showed you here earlier, along with a map of the downtown murals. They knew about the murals. Last week, I and a Main Street executive each independently heard from another boat's tour director that they needed maps. Last Friday, we were inundated with guests off the boat, which was wonderful. And we asked them, did you see QR codes? And we were told no. And they reminded us that for their age group, they didn't want to deal with QR codes. In fact, one of the guests took a pad of maps that I had back to the passengers on the boat.
Louise, you have 30 seconds. Okay.
Thank you. In light of the severe decline of downtown businesses, as we've all heard from Urban Renewal Agency, even from the tourism director at your last city council meeting, we need the tools to guide people to our businesses. Right now, it's the directory map that we developed 11 years ago. The funds allocated in the tourism contract should be used for this map. Any questions?
Any questions for Louise? Council Richardson?
I don't have a question, but I have not talked to Louise about this prior to tonight, but I agree. I think this would be a very valuable conversation. We ought to have a map, maybe 2 maps, one that's high level and one that's sort of downtown centric. Lisa, if you and Matthew could have that conversation, I would appreciate it. I think that's a valuable conversation. I'm not going to get into every line item of their current contract, but my guess is there's some wiggle room there that we could perhaps have a conversation about.
Anybody else? I have a question for Amy. We send out the schedule. I mean, I know I get one, right? Of the boats.
Yes, and the calendar is on the city's website.
Right.
That's updated.
Do the businesses get the schedule as well from us?
If they ask for
They
it.
ask, okay. I trust you have a lot of businesses that have signed up for that. No? Okay, okay. Okay, any other questions for Louise? Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay. Moving right along, city managers report, Mr. Klebs.
I thought you had more. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I do have three other people, but they all want to speak about the Federal Street Plaza,
So you'll have to hang out until then.
correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Several items for you this evening. I'll be working from my kind of list here because there's a lot of dates and details. Wanted to give you a reminder that we have scheduled a tour of the wastewater treatment plant for April 27th from 1 to 2:30. We also have a work session for the wastewater master plan on August 10th from 5:30 to 8. So I wanted to make sure those were on your calendars. Hopefully you can make it. We're also still looking for confirmation from any of the councilors who are interested in participating in the Cherry Festival Parade on April 25th. Please contact Amy if you're available. I wanted to give an update on the West Side Interceptor Project Phase 2. This is related to the Weber Street closure, which occurred earlier than we had originally anticipated in our project timeline. We responded to several different business and property owners who were concerned about this closure, in large part or in part because the Terminal Street project had not been completed and access was not available through the Union Street underpass coming by the cruise ship dock. We met with the contractor and came up with a plan to open Weber Street last week and this week with flagging going one way toward the river. And there's continued access along River Road across the Fish Bridge over on the west side of town. Paving of Terminal Way has commenced, and the Union Street underpass and that connection to the east side of town will likely reopen later this week on Friday, the 17th. And then as the project progresses, Weber Street will have to be closed again, likely starting on April 20th. This is not an optional closure for the project. It's needed to allow the project to be completed. Wanted to provide another update on the First Street streetscaping project. If you've been down in the area, you will obviously know that substantial work is underway. All the work is being closely monitored by our archaeologists with AINW. The project's on schedule, not without a few changes and whatnot along the way, which is to be expected. And we've also deployed additional signage throughout the downtown core, advertising that access is available. There's two-way traffic flow to the First Street parking lots, again, responding to some of the concerns that we heard from downtown businesses. The RFQ or request for qualifications document to bring on an owner's representative to support us in replacing the Wicks water treatment plant is nearing finalization and will be posted soon. That'll be an important step forward to actually changing or actually replacing the water treatment plant, which, as you all know, is beyond its lifespan and has limited capacity. So that will hopefully be issued soon. I appeared on KODL last week where we talked about the Federal Street Plaza, Basalt Commons, and as everyone knows, a lot of other different topics, as always with Mr. Nguyen. Attended Representative of Congressman Wyden's town hall, and the mayor and I are seeking a follow-up with Mr. Wyden or his staff to continue our advocacy efforts around House Bill 655, the Dalles Watershed Act. On March 27th, as I previously reported, the mayor, Dave Anderson, and myself attended and presented at the Governor's Data Center Advisory Committee in Portland with a focus on what a city does and how it prepares and assesses data center demands around water. I'm also part of the League of Oregon Cities Finance and Taxation Policy Committee, and this is one of the legislative committees that helps the League of Oregon City identify what it's going to pursue and support in the upcoming session. And then the League of Oregon Cities also has a conference next week in Pendleton, I think Thursday and Friday, that I'll be attending as well. And I think that is my report this evening. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Klebs?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not sure when exactly is the right time for this, but I guess now is as good as any. I would like to chat a little bit tonight about planning for the upcoming water year. As we know, we have very, very low snowpack around the western United States, including in our neck of the woods. And I think it would behoove us as a council to not just hear the snowpack briefing, but also get a sense of what the city's management plans are going forward. And if there are policy decisions to be made, I think sooner rather than later on those. So I've given you a couple of thoughts of things I would like to discuss. And I'm wondering if that is something that we can get at the next city council meeting or at the most a couple meetings out from now. So a month out from now.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think those are excellent questions. And as we've been talking about, and as we annually look at our snowpack and some of the conditions around the Pacific Northwest, I think it's a very timely and apt conversation to have on a recurring basis, frankly. I think the timing aligns quite well because we have our water management and conservation plan, an update to that plan coming due. And we have that slated for the second meeting in May for the council to have that conversation. Part of the reason we have it in the second meeting is May, is the first meeting in May is our budget meeting. And so that'll take 2 days or so. Having it at the next council meeting might be a little tight, to be frank. It may be more appropriate to have it during that water management and conservation plan update, where we'll get into, the different management and conservation techniques that we have, what water curtailment may look like, and what some of those policy directions that you're kind of referencing. You can provide that feedback to staff or make those decisions.
Fair. It's perfectly rational to put it off until after budget, except I guess my question about the timing of that discussion would be, when is it too late to steer ahead of potential oncoming problems? How late is it to make substantial policy direction such that we can sort of minimize impact and maximize water supply? And and maybe, I guess, let me think out loud here for a moment. If staff wrestles with that question and says 6 weeks is too long, then we need to have it sooner. If you feel like 6 weeks is okay, then we're okay.
Okay.
And I don't have the knowledge on that, but as you know, and just for public consumption, snowpack everywhere around the West is very low. And it is in our watershed. It is in pretty much everywhere around the West. Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that I can take away from this is circling back with staff. And if there are items that are time sensitive in that way, where 6 weeks kind of makes or breaks it, we can prioritize those different elements. Otherwise, bring it back as part of that water management and conservation plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, we'll go to city council reports. We'll start with Councilor Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No report.
Councilor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, attended a briefing session a week ago. I spoke with one of Senator Wyden's staff at length about the Dalles Watershed Act and advocated for our position and really for the senator and those who are interested to do some fact finding and not rely on what are a certain number of allegations and innuendos, which may not be factually sound, in my opinion. And I will say for the rest of council, Councilor Ring and myself and Mayor Mays attended a meeting and have had some follow-up with our effort with staff to upgrade and update our performance evaluations of the city manager and the city attorney. And I trust and hope, both trust and hope, that our updated process will become more focused and more useful to us and to our staff. That is all.
Councilor Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. March 24th, I was invited to Oregon Veterans Home with Point Man Ministries for an hour and a half or so of conversation with residents. Also on the 24th, I attended the community outreach team meeting at Columbia Gorge Community College along with the mayor and city manager. interesting details about the trip by Andrea Kloss and Scott Heggie to Washington, D.C. Little update on their progress on some community issues. On the 31st, attended a briefing along with Councilor Randall, with the city manager and our public works director and finance as well. That was interesting. Today, I chaired the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee meeting, which got over about a half an hour before this one started. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Council Ring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilor Richardson mentioned earlier, I participated with himself and Mayor Mays on our evaluations for city manager and city attorney, and making that process more effective. And I think I also hope exemplary for our city staff to evaluate our department heads and things like that going forward as well. And this isn't so much a report as a request, a kind of an alibi, but if we could get an update on efforts with the Portland Harbor Superfund site would be very, I think, good for us to keep abreast of what's going on.
Good. I think that's something we're all interested in for sure. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I've been getting periodicals from the efforts in Portland. Councilor Runyon and I think you were there, Ben, attended a meeting at the Shiloh, the old Shiloh, at the end of the Dalles, and received. So we're getting periodic updates from that group. So I just want to let the rest of the council know that. On April 1st, I attended a Wasco County meeting to provide support for the Basalt Common development, and it was a 3-0 unanimous vote. On Wednesday, April 8th, I attended a city briefing with Mayor Mays and city manager and 2 department heads from the finance and public works. And Ben Ring and I were there. Absent due to March 23rd, I was gone, and that was because of grandpa duty. Had a wonderful week at Oaks Park and went swimming with the grandkids. And then on Monday night, went to the Blazer game, and my granddaughter performed during halftime. So just a little extra. Airport meeting is coming up on April 17th that I will attend. And I want to mention that Rose Mays headed a wonderful group tour of Lions from around the eastern state that was here on a convention. And it was great having it in the heart of the downtown with the historic Granada. And there were maps involved. And I do appreciate the chamber sending all the materials and the support and the bags that really, people could take around. And so that was really good. And thank you very much for doing that. That's my report.
Thank you. I'll pass on your compliment to Rose Mays.
She was very outstanding.
Mr. Mayor, can I add something? At our last meeting, we had Chelsea Parrott, the veteran service officer, here talking about the stand down. That time was in question, but it's now been confirmed at a meeting earlier today, May 16th, Lewis and Clark Park. The stand down will begin at 11 o'clock and go until 1 o'clock. And what they're really going to focus on are those veterans in the area 55 and younger. They seem to be the ones, according to the VSO, that are just missing some information after they left service, and that's going to be a major goal. So May 16th, Lewis and Clark Park, 11 o'clock in the morning until 1 in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Councilor Ring?
I have an alibi. One of the things that I was tracking, I mentioned at the last council meeting that our Parks and Rec department was receiving an award from the Moda Center and or Moda Health, sorry, and the Trailblazer basketball organization in Portland, and that was awarded just this last week. So
Okay. far as my report goes, on March 24th, I did my monthly interview with Mark Bailey at KACI Radio. On the 24th, I attended, Councilor Runyon mentioned the community outreach team meeting at the college. On the 25th of March, I attended a budget committee meeting, or actually it was a pre-committee meeting made up of budget committee members and urban renewal budget committee members. And it was presented by our finance director, Brita Meyer, who did a great job presenting the budget and answering questions. March 27th, I attended our city manager mentioned, along with our retired public works director, Dave Anderson, the three of us attended the data center task force that the governor's put together, and we both testified as to the financial and especially the water segment to our relationship with Google. The 31st, I presided at a town hall meeting of Senator Ron Wyden at the Readiness Center. And on April the 1st, I attended the meeting that Councilor McLaughlin mentioned at the county to support the Basalt Commons project, which was approved, by the way. The loan of the county to the developer was approved by a 3-0 vote. So that was good news for us. And finally, on the 2nd of April, I attended a Zoom meeting made up of people interested in the regional solutions meeting about the governor's economic development plan for the coming 4 years. And that concludes my report. Okay. Item 9 is the consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the more important items and issues. Any councilor may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. Number 1 is approval of the March 23rd City Council meeting minutes. Secondly is a resolution concurring with my appointments of Casey Cook and Liz Lieberg to the Urban Renewal Budget Committee. Ms. Lieberg is here. Went away. There she is in the second row. We appreciate your volunteering for this. And finally, a resolution assessing property for the cost of nuisance abatement. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I have one question.
Yes, Councilor Runyon.
Amy, before you put this into the archives on the front of the agenda, I usually get these to you on the weekend, but I failed to do that. As far as counselors present and counselors absent, it says counselors present in both locations.
Okay, thank you.
You're the president here, present somewhere.
I just need to ask a question. If the person that is facing abatement is here tonight to represent their side of the abatement? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I can't.
It's been moved by Councilor Ring and seconded by Councilor Richardson to approve the consent agenda. Is there any more discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, one abstention. I was gone. I was gone from that meeting.
Okay. Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Item 10A is a contract with for Ajax Northwest LLC for the Federal Street Plaza project. What I'd like to do is do our usual system here is to first we'll have a staff report, and then the city council will ask questions. Our consultant Mike Zillis is here, and Reef Larson from Walker Macy is present on Zoom. But after the staff report, city council can ask questions, and then before we deliberate, I'd like to have we have 3 people that would like to testify from the public. And then after the public testifies, then have the city council deliberate and vote. So with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Klebs for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for introducing the additional staff and consultants that we have working on this project. I'm going to give a brief high-level background of how we got started and how we ended up here today. I also wanted to note that we have a letter from Marcus Swift on the dais about this project. He is in, I believe, wonderful Hawaii right now and couldn't make it here in person or virtual. So on September 9th in 2024, the City Council adopted Resolution 24-002, which established the Federal Street Ad Hoc Committee. The purpose of this committee was to help guide the development of a new downtown plaza and have direct involvement from our constituencies, individuals, business and property owners in the downtown, and City Council representation. This project has consistently been identified as a priority project in several of the most recently adopted City Council strategic plans, supporting goals related to downtown vitality, having a community gathering space, and supporting economic development. As I mentioned, the committee was comprised of city councilors, business and property owners, and residents, and they worked closely with city staff and the consultants from Walker Macy, which the committee was involved in selecting, to develop the design comments, solicit community feedback, promote the different concepts that we had. We went through several different versions, have an open house, support some of the funding efforts to bring together different civic groups and different donors to support the project, and ultimately present a design to the City Council, which was adopted before moving forward through the bid process, ultimately leading to tonight's recommendation. So the project itself is on Federal Street between 2nd Street and 1st Street, central to the downtown core. It is not the Tony's lot. I want to be very clear that it is not the Tony's lot. This is Federal Street and will incorporate the transportation, or formerly the VSO building, which kind of sits in the middle of that street already. The council has already supported and taken action to vacate that street and get it ready to be a parcel rather than right-of-way in support of the project. And the scope of work includes a splash pad, an associated pumping station, and an underground vault, building renovations to the transportation building itself, enhanced concrete pedestrian improvements, ADA features, storm grade upgrades, trees, benches, awnings, which we'll have some visuals here in just a moment, an additional bathroom to the transportation building, shade structures, and seating. I think one of the key components of this plaza, though, is its downtown center point. It's really that nexus point in the heart of the downtown. And with the work that we see going on 1st Street, we'll really create that connection between the heart of the downtown and working off of 2nd Street streetscaping and 1st Street streetscaping, connecting us to the Lewis and Clark Park, the underpass, and ultimately the river, the cruise ship dock, and the riverfront trail, which then itself ultimately connects us to the state trail going all the way to Portland. So it's a great jumping off point. It will include what's called a Gorge Bike Hub, which I believe we are the last community to get. Cascade Locks, Mosier, Hood River all have bike hubs. And the concept behind the bike hubs is that there's consistent branding and design elements to these different hubs. So when bikers are traveling from PDX to the Dalles or the Dalles to PDX, they can notice and see these amenities as one cohesive kind of unit. So there's certain style guidelines that we will follow, and our bike hub will be in the Federal Street Plaza. With the 1st Street parking lots, it'll serve as a good jumping off point for locals who want to access this amenity, but also people who are visiting from outside our community. During this process, the ad hoc committee had several regular public meetings with opportunities for public comment and engagement. We had a webpage, media coverage. There's been quite a few newspaper articles about the project and ongoing outreach through our webpage and social media to really try and make people aware of this project and solicit their input. At April 28th, 2025, just about a year after the ad hoc committee was created, the City Council approved the recommended site design for the plaza, incorporating the input from the ad hoc committee and all the work to date. City staff then worked with Walker Macy to develop detailed bid documents to go out through a procurement process for construction. On March 12th, 2026, we opened our bids that we received. We received 2 bids, one from Crestline Construction in the amount roughly of $3.498, and Ajax Northwest in the bid amount of 3.398. We reviewed the bids for responsiveness and bidder responsibility under our process, and Ajax Northwest submitted the lowest responsive bid. And moving forward, we're recommending Ajax Northwest be awarded this contract. In terms of some of the budget allocations in the 2025-2026 budget, we had allocated roughly $4.9 million to support the project, which includes both construction, but also the consultant services that we needed to move the project forward, along with some other incidentals, which include, owner-supplied street furniture. We have a couple of trash cans that we've wrapped in artistic wrap that you've seen throughout the downtown that we're going to add to this plaza. Throughout the process, we've garnered about $520,000 in special grants. We will be allocating $390,000 from our transportation division to support the bump outs and ramp replacements needed at the 2nd Street intersection. We have some additional funds coming from the city's capital improvement fund, specifically earmarked for the transportation building, which is a facility that the city owns and maintains already. And then we'll be looking at special enterprise zone funding to provide the remaining bulk of the funds needed for this project to go forward. And with those resources identified, there's sufficient funding available to support the project. So we're here tonight with the recommendation to award contract number 2026-004 to Ajax in a lump sum contract price of 3.398. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have through this process, but would like to turn it over to the Walker Macy team to give us some visuals to go with the words that I'm talking about.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Hi, I'm Mike Dalles, Walker Macy, and I'm joined by Rafe Larson. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Great. So for some of you who have been on the committee, we've worked together for over a year now on this plaza. It's exciting to be at this juncture tonight. I just wanted to review with everyone what's in the project. This is a view of the main space, which will have comfortable seating. There was a lot of conversations about having shade, which we've adjusted and adapted to the site. And it's a shared open space for multiple uses. Next. So our inspirations for the project, for those of you that were with us through this past year or so, is really the water of the Columbia and also the geology of your region. So you'll see elements of those in the design. The other important thing that we really focused on was the community. You've got a very active community. Listening to your meeting earlier statements, you've got a lot of people that are interested in making this place really special and have made it special. And so we were really seeking to make a space that was for everyone, that really attracted families and everyone to this space as their own. And as Matthew pointed out, it's really right in the center of your city. So you've got a tremendous location to do that. This is a site plan. You're looking bird's eye. 1st Street is to the right, 2nd Street is to the left. And as Matthew said, we're vacating the street and turning it into a plaza. Just for orientation, starting on the left, that's the bulb out area that Matthew just described. So we're making the crossing of 2nd Street much safer for pedestrians, bulbing the intersections to the left as well as at the plaza itself. We're adding a shade structure underneath, which is a series of porch swings. So it should be a very active, kind of comfortable place for everyone in the community to enjoy. In the center of the space, there's a large gathering space that's available for different size events. We figured out how to establish stages and booths and that sort of thing, depending on the occasion. It's bracketed by planters with trees and benches, so it's a comfortable place daily. The center area is the splash pad that Matthew just mentioned. It's kind of the focal point of the space. It's very important, we think, for attracting families throughout the summer. We've heard countless stories about how warm it gets in the Dalles and people's requests for cooling. That will provide that for children, but it also provides cooling for the seating area just to the right of it, which is under another trellis and a very creative bench that has stone and wood. So when you sit there, you'll be cooled by the fountain. But it's very important, we think, that the centerpiece is there to be active throughout the day. As you move to the right, there's more paving across the alleyway. And then, as Matthew mentioned, the transportation building interior, a new restrooms being added, public restroom. some doors added to the existing restrooms. So during events, you have two restrooms. So there's some minor modifications of the building for mechanical systems and electrical systems. The city's already gone ahead and replaced the roof and gutters. And so you'll, after it's painted and the interior work is done, you'll have a rehabbed building. That's also the location for the bike hub that Matthew mentioned. So there's bike lockers, bike racks, a fix-it station, water fountain, places for people to assign system that people can get oriented. So there's a bike hub inviting people on their bicycles to come, stop, and spend some time in your city. And then all the way to the right, the plaza extends over to your First Street development, which is under construction today. That's all been dovetailed, the two construction packages. As a matter of fact, the contractor, Ajax, would do both projects if you approve it tonight. So it'll be well coordinated to really knit this place together. Next. This is an enlargement of that area by Second Street, which is on the left. You can see the benches in brown underneath the trees. The orange benches in the center are Adirondack chairs, which will be positioned for comfortable use. The brown other areas or gray areas are boulders for seating, as well as for play features in the fountain. The fountain is programmed. It'll run automatically. It's got a system that recycles the water and cleans it, just much like a swimming pool. The controls of that will be in the transportation building. And it has a series of different kinds of jets. So there'll be different fun things for the kids to enjoy and people to watch. Next. This is some imagery of what the kind of spray heads might be and will be, and the idea of this kind of comfortable place for children to play. This is an example of a bigger fountain that we did in Portland. And you can see the family seated around the edge. That's one of the things we found in all of the plazas we've done with these kind of treatments. This is a larger one, but any kind of water in our climate now, especially when it's getting warmer, is very attractive to families, and they spend quite a bit of time here. So we think you'll have the same benefit at Federal Street. So this is an image we did. For those of you on the committee, you've seen this before. This shows the arbor between the fountain and the transportation building in the distance, that seating area I mentioned, the shade that will provide, and how the fountain itself would interact with the paving. And this is an image of this. Okay, this is an image of looking the other way now towards Second Street. And in the distance on the right, you can see those porch swings. So we think it'll be a really attractive place for families to enjoy throughout the summer and the winter. And this is a view of that same, we're looking north again towards the transportation building, and you can see the bike hub in the distance. This is a detail shot of the swings at Second Street. We're looking south now. We have 3 porch swings, which will be under a trellis, so you'll have shade and also just this comfortable place to sit and view activities in the plaza. And this is a view as you come into the bike hub off of First Street. You can see the sign on the left indicating where you are and getting oriented. Some seating, just off the screen is the bike lockers and bike racks. And that's the plan. So again, we're very excited to be at this juncture. We'd like to thank the committee again for all of the help and direction they've given us. And we really look forward to getting this implemented.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I guess we're at that point where the council will be asking some questions. I took the liberty last night of sending Mike and the staff a list of 8 questions that I'd like to get answered. With your indulgence, I'd like to go through those 8 questions right now. These were sent in advance to the consultant and to the staff. The first question is, how much of Ajax's total bid of $3,398,000 can be attributed to the water feature?
We asked for some bid breakdown, so it's according to their estimate, it's 400,000, or excuse me, 900,000, 925,000.
Question 2, could the city remove the water feature before construction begins and have the project remain on schedule? And then a second part to that question, besides the cost of the water feature, are there other costs or benefits in this particular scenario where we would remove the water feature before construction and have the project still be on schedule? Is that possible?
And so, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to have our city attorney address our procurement process there and the dynamic of altering the features there.
Mr. Kara.
Good evening. On the legal side of things, maybe there's a practical answer from Mike and his team or the construction side, but no, not from the legal side, Mr. Mayor. It's not possible to do that, to award this contract tonight if the water feature is removed from the scope of work. The project that was bid had that water feature as a central element of the project. It comprises about a quarter of the low bid. It's far too much of a completely different project without it, such that it would expose the city to some, frankly, avoidable risk of protest from potential contractors who I think very credibly could say that they were aggrieved by that change, because if there wasn't a water feature, maybe we would have gotten 10 other bidders who could have done that work, but maybe they decided not to because of the expertise needed or the subcontractors with local experience needed to implement a water feature. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
My third question now has become moot based on Mr. Kara's answer. And the question was, if the above scenario was to transpire, would that affect Ajax having the lowest bid compared to Crestline? And it's a moot point based on your answer. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. My fourth question, if the water feature was taken out, would that require a rebid? I think the answer is already, as Mr. Kara said, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Which would effectively delay the project. If so, how long would the delay be compared to the present schedule? I suppose that would be for Mr. Zillis to answer.
Yeah, I think there's an element here where, Mike, you can go ahead and answer about redesign and bid documents and whatnot, and feel free to speak to construction schedules and ideal bid times as well.
Yes, definitely. So just by a kind of a rough estimate for us to redesign this area, for you to go out to bid, which was a 1-month period, and then go through the award process, we're looking at about 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months. What that would do if you were deciding to do that. Presently, best case scenario is you might have a contractor in July. What that would do is push out the construction into next year. We were really pressed to get this contractor going this month so we can get done by the end of this year. So you'll extend the contract by doing that, which will add costs. I should also mention a rebid. We've seen other instances where you don't get any bidders or you get one bidder. So, sometimes the winner will give you another price, but others will just not. There won't be that much enthusiasm for the project, and they feel like someone's already in the leadership role. The other thing to keep in mind is the inflation. So one of the things we're seeing in the market is extreme chaos, I guess would be one way to put it. Fuel prices are unpredictable, and therefore every other price, everything comes in on a truck, is unpredictable. And the prices that go into things now are all over the map. So I would just like to mention to the council that you did receive 2 very good bids. They're quite, they were less than the engineer's estimate by quite a bit. So I think you're in a good position now to move forward. You can delay, you can rebid. It's probably, it'll take us some time and effort to change the drawings. You're probably at least 3 months out from another approval of a contract, and then you're going to be working, they'll be working into next year. The other thing that you should be cautious about is the bid period is right on top of the busy period for all the contractors. And so most contractors have their schedules filled for this year. So they'll be hard pressed to even put a bid together oftentimes, but that may either raise their prices or they may elect not to bid, because the best time to bid is at during the winter when people are looking at their future year. So you'd be right in the middle of the construction sequence, which is not an ideal time to bid.
So based on what you just said, it's fair to say that it would be a 1-year delay based on our present schedule? Am I reading that
Well,
correctly?
you'd be working into next year. Right now,
Yeah.
we're scheduled to be done by the end of this year. You'll be into next year by the time
Okay.
the whole construction sequence, procurement and construction happens. So I would say you're into mid part of next year, maybe early next year. Yeah. Depending on
Okay,
the
you just brought up inflation. That was my next question. And I hope this is a fair question. What is the present monthly rate of inflation for construction projects? You mentioned fuel, but if you put everything together, is it possible to estimate what the effective inflation would be, but with a delay like that?
we could get you that number. There's a lot of different concepts of what inflation means to different industries. So if you'd like us to develop that number, we can with our estimator. But I can say with confidence that contractors are really struggling right now based on how to price things. Diesel is whatever it is now, $6 a gallon. There's just very high rates of construction costs. As a matter of fact, in some of our projects, subcontractors will only guarantee their price for 30 days because that's how much things are changing. So I don't have the inflation factor, but I can all but guarantee you'll pay more for the element you're bidding if you go back out.
Okay. My next question, if the project is delayed and rebid, what is the estimated additional cost to be charged for your services?
I don't have that for you tonight, Mayor, but it would entail us pulling our team back together. I would say that every consultant we have would modify their drawings. So out of the construction set, we'd be modifying probably 80% of the drawings and the specifications. So it would take some effort. It can be done, but it would take some effort.
Okay, so you'll get back to us with that and that inflation number?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
My last question was, are there any other costs or benefits associated with delaying this project, or any benefits or as well as costs that you can?
For delaying, no, I don't know of any. I think, again, I believe the city, we were really thrilled to see the bids, the fact that you got multiple bidders, both of which were under the engineer's estimate. So I think you're in a really good position as a city to move forward with this project. So I can't think of a benefit per se for delay.
Okay. The rest of the council, questions?
Mayor Mays.
Councilor McLaughlin?
I support the overall plaza construction and the vision it represents for our community. However, I have several important questions and concerns regarding the proposed water feature. First, does the fountain operate on a recirculated water system, or will water flow directly into the sewage system?
It's a recirculated system. So it's one of the reasons Matthew mentioned that there's vaults is that all of the water goes through a treatment and gets reused.
So that means it would be maintenance, and it would have to have some technical ability to keep the chemicals. Is that correct?
That is correct. So there's a chemical, it's like renting a swimming pool. I should mention that our fountain consultants, as well as the vendors providing the equipment, will be here to train people and to help get the system up and running. This is not an overly sophisticated piece of equipment, but it does take maintenance.
That question was huge. In fact, of the fact that we have diminishing snowpacks, and how will that implicate? We can close the water at the same time so that it's not on when if the city is asked to curtail water usage, so it can be shut off as well.
I mean, if we're under a curtailment scenario and not being able to speak about our water management conservation plan in exact detail, but I would imagine that all these kind of amenities that are not critical would be shut off first.
So we're not going to ask our citizens to do something that the city would not be willing to follow suit.
Similar to the fountain we have down at the Lewis and
Got
Clark
it.
Park.
Second, do design plans include specific measures to reduce vandalism and ensure durability over time? I noticed I have some questions on some of the cost estimates on some of the infrastructure itself, but let me get an answer to that one. Do we have specific ways to reduce vandalism?
Yes, so in its basic design, it's a flat slab. There's nothing to really vandalize there. The heads are installed in such a way that they're very difficult to vandalize. All of the equipment is either in vaults or in the transportation building. So there's really nothing outside for people to vandalize. Think of it as a flat plaza that has some grates in it.
I did see, yes, I did see the pictures and I understand. Are
If I may, Counselor,
Yep,
speak
go
kind of
ahead.
more generally to the plaza. One of the elements of the plaza's project is the installation of a new security camera system to provide complete coverage of the plaza, again, with the transportation building as that center point, and is also one of the major discussion points with the ad hoc committee, and will continue to be so at the upcoming meeting that we have this Wednesday around plaza activation and who and what kind of entities go into the transportation building. Ideally, it's ideal to have kind of eyes on the plaza, and putting the museum that we currently have here at City Hall into the transportation building is one way to activate that space. Have people present down there, monitoring the area as best as they can and communicating with city staff. And so looking at different ways to really activate and create that presence there is also a security element as well.
Thank you. Third, what's the total expected cost associated with the water feature, including initial construction? We know I got that. I wrote these before I had the detailed investigation I did today. So I know the answers, but I want to make sure all of our citizens on record know as well. So will there be ongoing costs now that I know that it's recirculated, that there won't be wasted water? There would be chlorine? What other items would be used for maintaining? Do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, there's a series of chemicals. There's also a UV system that does most of the cleaning. It runs like a swimming pool, so you need to make sure the filters are clean and that the chemicals are added. And there's a way to test the water, to make sure that the balance is correct. But it's not a high maintenance effort. The pump systems can be monitored, from afar, so you can do it over the web and make sure things are working. Yeah.
Okay,
And then again, if I may, Counselor.
Yeah, of course.
With with all of the elements that we have here in the city, looking at how the different elements depreciate, and they all have a certain lifespan, and that's where the city's capital fund, general fund, capital fund really comes into play. And pumps do wear out,
Yes.
swings wear out, patios wear out. Murals at roundabouts wear out, and it's important for us to be allocating resources to maintain all of these different amenities. It was just a couple years ago, or even less than that, maybe, where we put up the welcome signs on either end of town. They will have to be replaced and maintained at some point as well. And so that's where that capital fund, and for the upcoming budget cycle, looking to make sure that we have sufficient revenues to maintain these assets that we're creating.
This prompts my next question then. What is the estimated lifespan that you expect before having to replace?
For like the pumps, for example?
Could be, or the feature in its entity. Will you have to dig it up and replace it, piping eventually, or does that have a lifespan in its own?
Well, everything has a lifespan, so I won't pretend that it doesn't. But the heads themselves are very sturdy. If you drain them in the winter, so there's no freeze and thaw, they're under a grate. They don't wear out very quickly at all. The pump systems last for many years. Again, we can get you this background information if you'd like, but it's an extremely durable system.
Okay, so the heads then, I'm looking now down at a jet, the Wave, the Monster 5, the Tulip. These are all particular jets. How many jets are you purchasing? Do you
I'd have
know?
to look at the drawings.
Okay.
30, I
It's
believe.
on the drawings, but I can tell you.
Between 20 and 30.
Oh, I see. Who said that? Oh, there was a voice that, okay.
The man from afar. So this
See,
is Ray
on
Larson.
on the
He's the
cost
project
estimate, it
manager.
just had jet, the wave jet. And so I didn't know
Right.
how many. Oh, and the composition of that jet, is it made out of bronze, metal, or what is it?
Yes, it's made out of metal, and it's
Out
in
of
a
metal.
protected crate. Yep.
Okay. And finally, let's see. Well, I didn't know before I wrote this question, what's the standalone construction cost of the water feature? But now I know it's over about 900,000, correct?
About they put on, I think it was 925. And keep
925,
in mind,
okay.
these contractors, they move, they estimate things, in different ways. So they may have, some values in one bucket versus the other bucket. So we really look at the bottom line to make sure that we have a bid that suffices what the city's looking for. And, you're almost 400 with this bid, you're almost $400,000 below the engineer's estimate.
You know what? I cannot in good conscience support the expenditures of taxpayer money without clear justification. And that's why I'm asking these questions, and also responsible planning, which I see that has been taken into consideration now, that we have this chance to sit and question this project. So thank you for your time.
Other questions? Council Runyon? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to.
Well, I feel a lot better about it tonight than I did 20 minutes ago, but I still have a couple of questions. I've been told a couple of different things. That first of all, the pump house was going to be inside of the museum. And now I've been told that the pumps will actually be outside. Is that correct?
Correct, and a vault outside.
And what will be inside are just the controls.
The
And
controls
I also,
and also the area you put the chemicals in, because we want to make sure that's a controlled place. So there's some piping that goes into the building to add the chemicals.
is my real concern is if we locate the museum there, which I think is going to be a huge tourist activity for this community right in the center of town. I'm just worried about smells from chemicals and so forth inside the building, and any way we can alleviate that. I don't know that there is. The other thing and you can answer this in a moment, but the other thing I was told tonight is that the controls are not some enormous thing, but just a box on the wall, basically. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the room would still be mostly available for storage and things like that for the museum.
So the bulk of the space in that one corner of the building is for plaza storage, as we originally.
We have other city facilities where things could be stored, like chairs and tables and stuff like that.
One of the dynamics the ad hoc committee talked about with Walker Macy was some of the amenities that may need to be moved in and out on even a nightly or weekly basis, or for winter storage. One of the things that we do lack as a city overall is a city facilities building. We've been storing some of the facilities equipment up near the upper lot at the library. There's a couple of sheds that we have up there, but they're insufficient for the city's need at this time. So we've been exploring some additional storage out there. There will still be plaza storage needed near the plaza, just for the proximity of those different amenities and whatnot. And then the other section of that storage room would be the area for the equipment for the splash pad itself.
One of the ideas I brought to you, and I've shown you some examples of, there are really nice looking and secure type sheds with a garage door and a side door that could be set up out there to take care of controls or extra piping, et cetera, and get the chemicals out of the building. That's my one big concern, is the smell inside the building. Because the museum won't last long if it becomes a problem.
Well, and in response to that concern and some of my conversations with Gene, I spoke with Mike and Rafe about ensuring that there's adequate any kind of ventilation that's needed for that space to make sure that smells don't permeate the walls or anything into the museum itself.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, anti-slipping. We have not permission, but our insurance carrier has approved this project with the potential. You understand what I'm saying? Is there a,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that our insurance agent has approved this project, but one of the elements here is what we've talked about a couple times around recreational immunity. Just like down at our Lewis and Clark Park, if you're running or you get hurt
Sure.
while recreating, there's a certain level of immunity there. Our city attorney could probably speak more directly about it, but that was one of the intentions here in creating it as a parcel or piece of property that we could apply some of those same or similar rules to.
so in summary, I know that there will not be wasted water, especially during drought periods. We know that slippage, at least if you have a plan and you can prevent as best as you can. And then any damage to the pumps or vandalism, those are the things that I'm concerned about. Oh, about lighting, what type of lighting is going to be used in this project?
There's overhead.
Various kinds. I'll let Mike answer that one.
Oh.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah, we have a very good lighting engineer. We have sufficient light throughout the entire plaza for safety and people's movement through it. We have down lights that cast a light onto the fountain, onto the center of the state or center of the plaza. They could be dimmed or turned off during events, but there'll be sufficient lighting throughout. There's even lighting under those trellises that we showed you, both by the transportation building and by the swings. So you'll have some downlights over those areas as well. So we're confident that we have very sufficient lighting.
Just to add to that, Mike, we're also replacing the soffit lights at the transportation building, so that'll get a refresh too.
Right.
So
That
around the edge of
satisfies.
that building today is dark. So imagine that's another big concern that the city's had is,
Yes.
dark corners around that building. So
Yes.
it'll be much better lit all the way around the building now.
I think not, and we can go all night into the details because it's very interesting. But I think another thing to highlight with the water feature, to your comment, Councilman McLaughlin, about water wasting. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm really sorry if I am wrong, but we talked about having, the water feature itself is on a timer with a button that you would hit to activate, so it's not continuously running.
Well, I'm certain like a pool, there would be some backflow where you would take some of the water, but that's normal maintenance. So as long as it's recirculated, that was my concern with facing backlash from the community with the political issues we've been facing with Google and some of the watershed issues. And, I didn't want to make that a part of the debate that's coming up. So I'm satisfied with all the answers that I've received, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we go to audience participation? Council Ring?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious, have we done any sort of analysis to figure out if our current facilities team is able to take on the additional maintenance and upkeep and we're still in work on programming and running of the plaza, which is to be expected, right? But do we have the capacity to maintain the water feature specifically, but also, moving chairs and things in and out on a daily, weekly basis and things like that? We don't have a place. I'm concerned about storing that equipment in the building itself, knowing that the museum's going to have a need for that space. So have we done any sort of analysis with that? Do we need to hire seasonal employment or something like that to help with that?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I'll answer it in two parts. I think the first part here is, and again, with the ad hoc committee meeting this Wednesday, that's going to be a key part of that conversation in terms of activating that space and who's kind of involved there. Originally, the committee had been talking about the museum going into the transportation building, which is still moving forward. The other one was the Dalles Main Street program, which I think is still a question mark. It's still something to work through if they have the capacity to occupy that space on an ongoing basis. For both the museum and for potentially Main Street or another nonprofit, we've had some conversations about donating that space to those nonprofits. But part of that lease agreement would be some of these duties. In particular, when we were talking with Main Street about picking up litter in the space or bringing out some of those tables and chairs or whatever kind of amenities that we have out there, putting them away, reporting breaks or vandalism to the facilities team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's going to be a key part of our conversation on Friday as to who else may go into that space or if it's all for the museum. That is to be decided. The other question here, or the other part of my answer, is taking a holistic look at all of the maintenance needs that the city will need to address, not only for this Federal Street project, but when the First Street streetscaping is done, with additional trees and benches and trash cans and everything else that goes down First Street, as well as the ending of the contract that we have with Davies Trees to continue to care for and promote and support the success of our downtown street trees on Second. And so there's going to be some additional watering needs, pruning needs, et cetera, et cetera. And if we don't contract that out, as we have been over the last few years, we'll need to do those services ourselves. And so we are evaluating whether or not another facilities position is needed to meet these multiple different needs. There also there's some need for some in-depth planning to make sure that we have people coming up through the facilities ranks and learning where our backflows are and learning how we do things at the city to give us some of that institutional knowledge transfer and make sure that we're looking long-term there. So that's some of the work that we've been looking at to date and evaluating it both from a partnership standpoint, but also what we need in-house.
And have we, specifically for the cost, with $1 million price tag, it's a significant portion of the build effort. I'm curious if we've identified alternative pots of money that we can use that money. In other words, if we did not go forward with the water feature, are there other areas that we could use those funds, such as, streets, things like that, streets in particular being an issue?
Yep. So some of the items there is we do have some support from the Dalles Lions Club that I think was in particular focused on the water feature. And if that water feature changed or was removed, for example, we'd certainly want to have a conversation with them. But you're absolutely right. We could use those dollars in a different way in another place. The council passed a resolution for some of these special enterprise zone or strategic investment program dollars to try and address some of those core long-term needs that we have with public infrastructure, with our capital fund, and a few others. But even taking, for example, the GAP payment, the guaranteed annual payment from the strategic investment program, the SIP dollars, that's a very substantial portion that we're putting towards our public infrastructure needs, our generational public infrastructure needs. But it could take every dollar we have, frankly. And so there's always another use there where either we're taking on less debt for some of these infrastructure projects, or we're trying to maintain our pavement management index for our street system, let alone trying to improve it, just trying to maintain it. And those are all very capital heavy, capital intense infrastructure projects. And so if we were to, remove the water feature at $900,000, we could certainly put it towards something like that. And adjust the project accordingly.
Any other questions?
That prompted one more question because the plaza and the Lewis and Clark Park and the city park are all maintained by city and not Parks and Rec. Is that correct?
The city park is not maintained by the city, and I giggle every time I have to say that.
I keep hearing that, but
I know. But the city has the Lewis and Clark Park. We have the proposed plaza. We also have a few islands around town, not literal islands, but traffic islands, such as like 6th Street or what we call Hecka Park over by 9th
Oh, yeah.
Street. But those are the smaller traffic islands that we try and maintain and take care of.
So I stand corrected. The plaza and the Lewis and Clark and the small parks around town would be the only. Okay, thank you.
One more.
Well, Councilor Ring and then Councilor Runyon.
Yeah. I think I've had a lot of my questions answered. The ventilation is huge. And if I'm assured that you're going to take care of that. Also on the back of that office, that was Russ Jones's office when it was a veteran service office, there is a door there, I believe, a back door on that building.
Correct.
So they don't need maintenance people working on the pump or whatever, do not need to go through the front door and through the museum. And the reason I say that is we have things there that are on loan from citizens in the 5 counties that we represent. So it's very critical that we have security.
And that was part of the reason why we identified that space for some of these elements, is because it had its own secured entrance separate from the rest of the space for the museum and potentially other users.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get that on the minutes that we've talked about the rear door as the entry for maintenance. Okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? This will be my last.
Councilor Ring first.
All right. Who was?
Ring?
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe this is a good question for the folks from Walker Macy, but what's the projected, so if I build a house or buy a car, large ticket items, I typically have a expected maintenance cycle and things like that. Are there projections on some of the hardware that have been spec'd out in this build for the water feature that would give us an idea of what we should expect for maintenance, over the next 2 to 5 to 10 years, over the lifespan of the feature?
Well, the lifespan of the feature should be much longer than 10 years. The pumps
Certainly.
are made to last well over 20 years. Everything takes maintenance, as Matthew said. There's very few moving parts to this project, right? It's a pump system. The nozzles either flow or they don't flow, and all of the equipment is in a secured area. So there should be very little maintenance over time. There is, I'm sure, a life cycle to everything, right? Matthew just mentioned that. Even, your streets, your sidewalks, everything has a life to it. But this will be built very well and should last quite a while. I think the issue that was brought up is probably more important is who's going to maintain it. Who are the people that are going to be there, and their training. And as I said, within our contract and our fountain designers subcontract is we have a full training cycle. So you don't just get a binder full of here's your pump systems, but they actually get taught how to do it. The folks that do the control systems are also available. That's, everything's computers now, right? So it's a little bit of programming. The interesting thing about today's systems is you're able to modify that, how those jets work if you want to. As a matter of fact, when we did a large fountain in Corvallis, actually it's about the same size, downtown Corvallis. We actually had folks the first year able to program their own show, if you will. It was kind of fun for the community to go and do that. But the systems are very durable. Everything takes maintenance. If it's well maintained every year, drained down, and winterized and then brought back up in the spring, that's kind of the main thing to do, besides checking the chemicals on a daily basis and making sure the electronic equipment is firing.
Councilor McLaughlin?
Oh, I have sufficient information to make a decision, so.
Okay, well, we'll get to that after we hear. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one more comment. I want to be really, really clear. We've had some conversation at the ad hoc committee in developing this document or this bid package for construction. And one element is that, and I want to acknowledge that the bricks in front of the Veteran Service Building will be removed as part of the project. The committee's has had conversation around how to replace those bricks or acknowledge the volunteers who donated to the transportation building and its creation, either with a plaque or something like that. And so again, on the agenda for the ad hoc committee later this week on Wednesday is to kind of explore those different ideas of what could be done. I've had some conversation with individuals who have expressed an interest maybe before construction really starts to go down and see if those bricks can be removed by hand without them cracking or being destroyed in some manner. Maybe there's a low wall or other feature on a vertical basis that could be built with these bricks. We're going to be exploring some of those ideas because we want to make sure that we continue to acknowledge the volunteers who put effort into that building. But that is an aspect of this project that I want to be clear and upfront about.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Audience participation. First up is Jim Wilcox. Please, I'm asking everyone to hold your comments to 3 minutes. So funny.
Directed specifically. Fine. I've been quiet for a long time. Jim Wilcox, 416 West 7th Street. I am here to represent the Dalles Lions Charitable Trust. And we first heard of this whole project when it was brought to the public with 3 different concepts. I think it was 3 different concepts at Freebridge Brewing. And I went, ooh, boy, this looks like something the Lions could get involved in. There's a water feature. And the reason the Lions are involved in that, it's been over 80 years that we've been involved in the Dalles Natatorium. And then 5 years ago, along with the City Beautification Committee, we raised $22,000 of $42,000 that got the Vote Fountain running again and the Rose Garden paving and all that. That was all Lions. And this, again, water kind of fit what we do. So going along in January, we made the commitment. Right now, we have in the bank ready to turn over to the city $20,000 towards water feature. I've also written one grant for another $20,000 to match it. And in May, when it becomes available, I'm going to write another request for another $20,000. So whether I get any of them, I don't know. But $20,000 is in the bank today. That's where we're starting with a water feature. Without that water feature, you're going to have a big slab that nobody goes to. Because I worked out of a 503 East 2nd, south side of the street for 25 years. Step outside the door on a 90-degree day and with the street and no water and nothing else, you don't want to be outside. I don't care how much shade. So if you don't put the water feature in, you might as well stripe it for parking because nobody's going to stop there. The location's perfect. If you're giving a mural tour or a tour of downtown buildings, it's halfway. Either direction you go, it's halfway. So the location is excellent. What Matthew just mentioned about acknowledging the contributions of the people that bought the bricks to build that thing in the first place, that's just showing respect to the community. You'd be another $1 million into it if you didn't have that building to start with. So I think acknowledging their contribution years ago is extremely important. And I'm sure you'll find a way. I don't have that, but I do want you to know that the Lions Trust is behind it. We are trying to gather more money for grant money for the water feature project. We think it's extremely important, and that without it, you got a parking lot. It's a water feature. People will go there to cool off. It would be a family place. Without it, with that much hard surface sucking up the 90-degree sunshine, nobody's going to be outside unless there's some way to cool off, even if it's just getting your feet wet. It's that important. I am a full support of the project the way it is. I hope you go forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you very much for your work in support of this.
Well, and I want to thank Matthew for writing a letter in support of what we're doing here, that we're working together on it. That makes a difference when you apply for grants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, take the opportunity that the 520,000 that we have in grants and other donations. I just want to go down the list. I should have done it prior. My apologies, but these are made up of contributions from the Dalles Lions Club, like we just heard, Google, Northern Wasco County Parks and Rec, T-Mobile, and the Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal Agency.
Thank you. Steve Light.
Steve Light, 1816 East 10th Street, the Dalles, owner of Freebridge Brewing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council, for the opportunity to provide public testimony regarding the Federal Street Plaza. Not only am I a business owner of 10 years in the downtown business district, but I also served as a member of the Federal Street Plaza Ad Hoc Committee from its inception in September of 2024 until my resignation February 2025. During this time, I directly participated with a very dynamic group of stakeholders in the design, development, and public outreach of this incredible project. Enormous considerations were given to every aspect of the plan. I couldn't have been more proud to be part of this monumental community space development project. Working with Walker Macy's team was nothing short of inspirational. From concept implementation, their expertise was extraordinary. The care that they showed to every element and feature was thoughtful of both design consideration and budget. The goal was to create a unique, flexible space that welcomed all communities for decades to come. The Federal Street Plaza is more than just a central gathering hub for the downtown day-to-day visitors, but a safe space for our diverse communities to engage with one another. The natural beauty of the gorge is represented in the design narrative featuring interactive elements of rigid columnar basalt showcasing a laminar pattern concrete emulating the flow of the mighty river that created our landscape. The centerpiece will be a magnificent water feature that will emit sounds of cascading waterfalls and giggling kids splashing in the hot summer sun. This is the most crucial design feature of the plaza, a family-friendly oasis in the grip of summer. Until recently, I may have not noticed the significance of such a space. Since my involvement with the Federal Street Plaza Committee, I have taken time to recognize and seek out these spaces and note both uniqueness and similarities. Most plaza design narratives incorporate regional and local history, geology, community, art, family activities, etc., not unlike what we have to see here at Federal Street. However, one fairly consistent thread was the incorporation of a water feature. Some were extravagant with nighttime lighting and programmable displays. Some had unique sounds created by pushing high-pressure water through engineered nozzles. They were all quite mesmerizing. I understand that this feature is challenging to engineer. It's costly. It requires regular maintenance. It has seasonality. But with all this being said, we are building a space for generations to come, and the Dalles most certainly deserves this.
Steve, you got 25 seconds, okay?
We can't be a great community if we don't think we deserve great things. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I should have just shut up. Thank you, Steve. Is Richard Wolf still here? I
No.
saw him. Okay, he signed up. I guess he's not coming. I received a text message from Beth Stelzer. Beth is, she owns the farm stand and was also a member of the Federal Street Plaza Committee. She wanted to attend the meeting tonight, but something came up at the farm stand and she won't be able to come. She wanted to attend and express her support for the water feature. Okay, and with that, I'll turn it over to the City Council for deliberations, comments. Council Richardson?
Sure, I'll make a couple. I was involved with the ad hoc committee for, I guess, the last couple of years. And well, committees are often places where good ideas sort of go to wither and perish. I would say in this case, we've had just the opposite. It was surprisingly substantial in its involvement, its public outreach, its give and take, and I would say the sort of spirit of a pride that we had for our community. I'm proud and excited about this opportunity. We do. I'm glad that some of my fellow counselors had some fairly hard-nosed questions. I think that's appropriate. I would say the committee has also had many evening hours of hard-nosed questions as well. Much of our work as a city is about keeping things moving, sort of keeping the treadmill going, right? Keeping the water flowing, keeping the streets paved. That's all critical. Once in a while, maybe if we're really lucky, we get an opportunity to sort of advance what we have as a community. And I feel this is one of those rare opportunities. It's not cheap, it's not free, and nothing ever really is. We shouldn't expect that. But I would say we budgeted something on the order of $4.9 million for the project, and we're about $1 million under budget. I would say let us take the win. Let's get this across the finish line and approve this contract tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Counselor Randall?
Yeah, I'll just kind of repeat what Councilor Richardson said. I know early on we had concerns about the expense involved in a water feature. It was before I think we even appointed the ad hoc committee, and so the part of their job was to evaluate all the different options, and what they came up with was a water feature central to the design. So I think they did a good job evaluating that and recommending it. Think about the nation's capital with all the water features there and how attractive that is to tourists with the tidal basins, the reflecting pool, World War II memorial, and on and on. So many different water fountains and features that draw people to that area. And I think this will help do the same thing for us.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, I'm in agreement with what's been said.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ring?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the plaza is a good project. I think that it is a place that's going to be has great potential to be a meeting place and central location downtown, and it is pretty well positioned in the downtown area. I do have concern about the cost of the feature, the water feature. I'm ecstatic that the bids came in lower, and that seems to be, I'll knock on wood, that seems to be an ongoing trend. As I referenced, the bids that we received for First Street were significantly lower than what we anticipated after such a large delay with that project. Not to say that they won't go up, but I think that with the maintenance and the cost of the project and thinking about some of the other things that we need to do in this city, $1 million may not seem like it'll go very far, but it will go very far for some of the things that we do need. We spoke earlier about the ability to increase like chip seal capacity. I pick on streets because it's like the easy thing to pick on, right? But my point is that I think that there's other places that we could spend that money, and nobody wants to delay a project. But I think we need to take a serious look at the cost of that feature, not just the upfront cost, but the total cost of ownership over time with maintenance. I would love to say that it'll go off without a hitch, and we probably won't have problems with water pumps and things like that for years maybe. But I also know that the practical side of me says that there's going to eventually be something, right? We don't know what that is. And it's a little bit frustrating that we can't sort of project what that's going to be. In the tech industry, we deal every day with like mean time between failures and things like that. Like, we should be able to estimate that. So not being able to estimate what that maintenance is going to be over the life of that feature is concerning to me. And again, I would invite the rest of city council to just take that in for a minute and think hard about it. There's a lot of other things that we could be spending that money on. And I for one would like to see us take a stab at that.
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilor Ring. There's absolutely any number of other things we could spend the money on. Yes. And a year from now, if we were to go hog wild and throw $1 million into chip seal, $1 million additional dollars, or anything with regarding to roads, we'd probably essentially not notice it. Roads are able to soak up as much money as we could ever throw at them. And I would say this is not an ongoing, there is some ongoing expense, no doubt, but the big expense to this project is upfront. It's mostly a one-time expense. And I would say a year from now, or 5 years from now, or any number of years from now, I trust we'll be able to look back and say that was a good investment. It's not a 1-year project, right? Like a road or even a building. It's, it's a 50-year, it's a 100-year decision. It will outlive all of us, subject to just, not being torn up. And I guess if you amortize that over a long term, there's a lot of value to be had, as well as the very real maintenance costs. So I agree. And yet I guess I'm looking at the other end of things, that you have to spend the money to get the value and be mindful of the maintenance.
Anybody else?
I don't want an opportunity to pass because we spend a lot of time on here and we're elected officials and we spend, and all of these decisions that we make are very serious because it affects a lot of people. So when we come into a meeting like this and we hear only one side of the issue, and we know that there's probably opposition out there, but if we don't hear both sides when making decisions, that also drives the decision for us. So I'm asking the community, when you want to be heard, this is the opportunity to do that at City Council, and come and be heard, because you're given every opportunity in order to do that. And it assists us in making rational, sane decisions for the interest of our community. And that's what I'm asking the public to consider moving forward. There, I said it.
Thank you. Councilor McLaughlin? Anything else? Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the award of contract number 2026-004 to Ajax Northwest LLC and authorize the city manager to execute the public works agreement with Ajax Northwest LLC for the Federal Street Plaza project for the lump sum contract price of $3,398,000.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Richardson to approve award of the contract to Ajax for construction of the Federal Street Plaza. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Would you say that because I know some people are looking, because of the little bit of a conflict I have being involved with the museum and whatnot, chemicals were the big thing inside there. And I really trust in what I've heard tonight that there'll be a way to abate that, because I think the museum will be a real valued attraction once we get where people can see it. And that'll help with volunteers and the ability to keep it open 5 days a week, whether that's Monday through Friday or Monday through, Saturday. I don't know we've talked about a couple of different scenarios, Tuesday through Saturday, I guess. So as much as I hate spending the money, it probably is going to be okay. So, but I still would like to have that room for storage for the museum. And if you know where we have storage now, it's not enough.
But the other issue that was it was the bricks and the respect that.
The bricks are a big thing.
Yeah.
I have a brick there, by the way.
And so that has been addressed. And so those were two concerns. I just want to point that out, that you're working towards a resolution on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been moved. Second,
Oh.
Councilor Ring.
All right. I just want to reiterate that, I express my sincere appreciation to the city staff and our partners at Walker Macy for the hard work and dedication of the project. That said, I have significant concerns that prevent me from voting yes on that right now.
Well, I'd also like to acknowledge the work of the committee, who'd worked very hard over 18 months to get to where we are today. And with that, any last comments?
No.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11. An ordinance amending our municipal code for administrative clarity. Are you taking this?
Yeah.
Mr. Kara.
Give me just half a second to get back into this meeting. Okay. Good evening.
Didn't even get to finish.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Before you tonight, we have General Ordinance number 26-1427. This is a housekeeping ordinance. There's no policy changes here. This is going to be keeping the same licensing program that the City Council adopted back in December for dog licensing, which, as Council might recall, is taking place on July 1st hopefully a very hard launch then. The ordinance has been in effect since January 7th, but the licensing requirement takes effect July 1st. And so tonight's ordinance is just a few implementation updates that staff has identified require some update before that July 1st deadline comes upon us here in about 3 months. Some of the work that staff took after council adopted this ordinance is to try to find a vendor to support some of the licensing dynamics and day-to-day operations to make life, frankly, as easy as possible for the community as they go to get their dogs licensed. And so what we discovered in that process of hunting down a vendor and working with them to finalize a contract for this is that some of the details that we had in our ordinance at the time of adoption back in December, they were a little unnecessarily restrictive in a couple different ways. And so there's a small handful of changes that would be required for the city to make. And frankly, they're pretty common sense once you get into the brass tacks of things. And so just wanted to be clear, nothing here changes any of the council's policy. Again, it's just intended to be just a number of administrative housekeeping edits. And I itemized them in the staff report. This is on page 66 of 84 in your agenda packet. Starting at the very bottom of the first page of the staff report on page 66, we just wanted to clarify some of the dynamics surrounding dog license tags and some of the rabies verification framework. The big change here is just that as we work through this implementation program, it became clear to us that having an expiration date on these tags was kind of problematic. The vendors that are in this sphere of dog licensing and pet licensing generally tend to have sort of these forever tags that they will issue. And the issue with a forever tag is that they don't have expiration dates on them. And so the way that we drafted the ordinance back when it was adopted had an expiration date requirement. So we're just removing that to be no longer on the physical tag itself. When we started talking to some of these vendors about how they handle fee reductions and fee waivers in cases of assistance animals and guide dogs and seeing eye dogs, was that they had a slightly different process than the way that we had articulated it in our ordinance. And so the proposed draft before you tonight simply just streamlines it so that it's more consistent with some of the industry standards that staff discovered as we began looking at implementation here. It also, one of the changes here tonight, it's in the middle of page 2 out of 3 on the staff report, page 67 in your packet, is adding in a designee authority, which is, depending on which city attorney you ask, I think it was inherent in our current draft ordinance or the current ordinance that's on the books. But just, while we were here making these proposed changes, I figured it would be very appropriate just to sort of be express about it. Basically just aligning the code with the city's intended use of an authorized contractor to assist with dog licensing administration. And finally, there's a requirement currently in our ordinance that's a holdover from our previous dog control ordinance from the 90s. And that wasn't changed back in December. But again, while we were taking a look at this holistically, we thought it'd be prudent to take care of it now. Currently in our code, it requires council to establish something known as an impoundment fee. The impoundment fee does not exist. It's not currently in our fee schedule. And it was intended at the time in the 90s, it seems, to address situations to basically require keepers who let their dogs get sent to the pound, they'd have to pay an impoundment fee as well to sort of cover the city's administrative costs with like transporting the dog there. That's separate from whatever day-to-day charges go into care for the dogs when they're at these facilities. And that's a number that's currently set by the Humane Society who houses the dogs. And so the bottom line is for this impoundment fee structure change that I'm recommending is currently it says in our code that the city council shall establish that fee. I just changed it to a may establish that fee, and certainly no fee is being intended to be adopted here on this tonight. I just wanted to get council out of this commitment it found itself in when it adopted the last ordinance. So again, just changing this shall adopt to a may adopt fee and just keeping it discretionary in the future as council would like. So with all that said, more than happy to answer any questions about this, but it was very much intended to be a housekeeping ordinance.
Any questions for Mr. Kara?
No.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Next, one question here is one. There's a couple of paragraphs in here where it says, due to approval processes and whatnot, the license tag might have to be replaced. Are we going to charge them again for that replacement?
There's a replacement tag that's baked into the ordinance there's a fee for it. It's currently, as we are finalizing our contract, it's just the cost directly for the vendor to actually produce and mail the tag. And I think it's hovering around $3 exactly. The city is not going to get any percentage of that. That's just handled directly by if you lose your tag or your tag gets destroyed somehow. If you want a replacement tag, it's
That's what I'm asking is if it's our fault or had the dates changed or whatever, it wouldn't seem fair to charge them again to make a new tag. The citizen.
No, there's no, no, I hear what you're saying now. Thank you for explaining. No, this is just a requirement in our ordinance that says all tags shall have expiration dates on them. What I'm proposing for tonight's change is to get rid of that requirement. So tags don't have to have dates on them anymore. Does that make sense? And it's not clear to me that we've actually issued any tags yet since we're still coordinating with the vendor to get this rolled out.
Okay.
And under state law, those tags can be the same rabies vaccination tag. And so any dogs that have, I'll have to ask staff, have we accepted any dog license applications? So not yet, but this is intended to tee us up to enter the contract to get this established right away and to make sure that we have all the tools necessary for July 1st. That deadline as it looms. So again, just to answer your question very candidly, Councilor Runyon, no tags have been issued, so nobody should be needing a replacement tag.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else?
No.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Mayor Mays, I'll go ahead and move to adopt resolution number 26-013 as presented.
Second?
Mr. Mayor, I believe it's 012.
I believe it's a general ordinance.
Yeah, it's a
It's
different.
definitely not a resolution as well.
Page 68.
Oh, well, that's what's written in my
Apparently,
resolution 6-1. Okay. All right. I move to adopt general ordinance number 1427 by total title only as presented.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin and seconded by Councilor Randall to adopt the general ordinance by title only. Is there anyone that would like to have the ordinance read in its entirety?
No.
I'm not hearing any support for that. So I'll ask the city clerk to please read the ordinance by title only.
General Ordinance Number 26-1427, an ordinance amending certain provisions of the Dalles Municipal Code, Chapter 5.20, Dog Control, for administrative clarity.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and 11B is a resolution amending the city's fee schedule.
Yes.
Mr. Kara.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mays. Give me just one more second here. Okay. The city's fee schedule was established in 2001, and it gives the city and the public a catalog of charges for the city's provision of municipal services and what the city charges for those services. No fee is designed to generate revenue for the city. They are designed specifically just to abate the costs of providing those services. And so a marked up copy of some of the proposed revisions here tonight, all of the proposed revisions here tonight, is attached in your staff report. And there's really only 4 changes. And I've been the city attorney for 6 years. I can't think off the top of my head that we've had such a strong reduction in fees before, but we'll start off with number 1, the recreational permit fees. And by the way, all of staff whose department is sort of responsible for some of the services associated with these fees are all here tonight. I am not a subject matter expert on everything. And so I will absolutely call them up as needed to answer any questions council might have. But going back to recreational permit fees, staff is recommending reducing all of the permit fees for recreational permits almost in half. And these are the council might recall adopting TDMC 503 last year. This is all about the single day exclusive fees and single day non-exclusive use fees and the multi-day exclusive use fees and the multi-day non-exclusive use fees for properties that are posted with recreational permit signs. Currently, I believe the only property that we have posted with this is Lewis and Clark Festival Park, but that can change as time goes by and other properties become more needed for that use. So currently, single day exclusive fees are $250. Staff is proposing a reduction down to $150. Currently, reducing single day non-exclusive use fees are $100 for the permit, and staff is proposing reducing that down to $50. Top of page 75, staff is proposing reducing the current $500 a day charge for multi-day exclusive use fees, cut in half to $250 per day, and reducing multi-day non-exclusive use fees from $200 per day down to $150 per day. All of these adjustments are intended to better calibrate the city's recreational permit fees to our actual use cases, and frankly, to prevent any sort of unnecessary cost barriers to the ordinary permit process. There's no relaxation here of any of the applicable permit standards. We're also not touching the refundable. Is it all good? Are we still like recording and streaming? Okay. This is not relaxing any of the underlying permit standards. There's no change being proposed to the refundable security deposit. It's simply just updating these fees by reducing them in order to get more use out of our recreational properties, and in fact, this case, Lewis and Clark Festival Park. I'll keep going until somebody interrupts me. Moving on to the second of 4 is the administrative application general fee. This is a new fee of $160, but it's not for a new service. This is a CDD, land use and development application fee. We've identified in our day-to-day a gap in our fee schedule that doesn't track our ordinance perfectly. Currently in our ordinance, there's the opportunity to apply for what's called an administrative application for a land use fee. We don't have a fee for it. And so rather than trying to shoehorn that application, which requires a bit of staff time to process, into something that's not that, staff decided to, was really recommending using this mid-year update to sort of get this fee in for this application that we currently offer, including we currently have somebody who's sort of waiting for us to adopt this before they can submit their application here for a wireless facility. And so at any rate, this $160 fee is very in line with the rest of the fees for applications of this type in our department. $145 for the commercial building permit fee was the closest sort of comparable there. And we just used that plus added in the cost of the required mailings that are necessary for administrative applications, which the planning department went over in our last update to our fee schedule. It's about $13, $14. Okay. On the topic of dog licenses and replacement tag fees, staff is recommending for dog licensing this $3 replacement tag fee. Again, we haven't had any applications, Councilor Runyon, yet, because we haven't implemented this program yet, but we are going to be doing so eminently as that ordinance has just changed. This $3 charge for a replacement tag, again, is for people that have been issued tags by our vendor and that they've somehow lost it or it's been destroyed. They can get a new one. It just costs the vendor $3. And so that's the fee that staff recommends putting on our fee schedule. There's also a credit card processing fee of $3, which again is a direct vendor cost. It's the cost of them using a card processor like Visa or MasterCard. And so staff recommends putting that here on our fee schedule. But of course, you can always pay by check, and in which case there is no credit card processing fee. But again, these are going straight to the vendor who will be billing the city for those. And finally, number 4, out of 4 is updating the city's public records staff time fee. Staff's recommending changing our current fee, which is $25 per hour, to $50 per hour. And the current $25 per hour rate actually dates back to the very first city adopted fee schedule in 2001, which is another way of saying it hasn't changed in 25 years. And so back in 2001, when the city council adopted it, then it was $25. And just for context, just accounting for inflation alone, $25 in 2001 is $46 today, thereabouts. And so that's not the basis for why staff's recommending this change, but I thought it was very helpful context as I tried to think about this. The actual $50 charge is based off of the city position who currently does the lion's share of all of the work, which is the paralegal position in the city attorney's office. Conservatively, 85 to 90% of the work that goes into a public records request is run through the paralegal position. Nearly every department, actually, I'll take it back. Every department has staff that contribute to public records requests. It's sort of an all hands on deck constant in our life. But a tremendous amount of work is handled by the paralegal position. And so this fee of $50 per hour is intended to just reflect the amount of time and effort that that position spends doing this work and to line it up to their compensation. So take the paralegal position's compensation and divide it by 2,080, the number of hours that the city expects the paralegal position to be in that chair doing work for the city, and you land at $50. I just thought it was a happy coincidence that with inflation, it's 46. And just to be extra clear, since this is the first time, I think it's been my legal department that's recommended a fee increase. Just want to be clear for council in case there are any lingering questions about public access to records, and just due to the nature of this fee, the city still is intending on waiving the first hour of all public records requests as they come in. We also, I would say, rarely charge fees at all. There are fee waivers that are required by law if the requester sufficiently demonstrates to the city at the time they make the request that their request is in the public's interest, and in which case my office will always follow Oregon law when it comes to reducing and waiving fees that are in the public's best interest, as opposed to private interests. And I guess this is really just intended to, this is not going to be interfering with the public's access, except in cases where somebody is demanding a tremendous amount of work from the city and they're not otherwise eligible for a public interest fee waiver. And so at any rate, happy to answer questions about that one and happy to defer questions on all the other ones to all the other staff that are here. But Mr. Mayor, just want to mention, consistent with ORS 294-160, in cases where we're doing a fee schedule update or the city council must actually provide members of the public who are interested to comment on this enactment of this fee schedule before any motions are made and any schedule is adopted. Thank you.
Okay, before we do that, I entertain questions from the city council before we ask for public comment. Council Richardson?
City Attorney Garrett, tell me one or two examples that come to mind for easily accessible or routinely requested records that will remain free to anyone who requests them.
Police reports, by and large. I mean, technically, if somebody's making a request for 40 or 50 different police reports, like, hey, I want to get every police report that's written about this address in the last 8 years. Our fee schedule has I think it's $6 per police report that we charge when they're that voluminous. But more often than not, it's people calling in, they got into a car accident last week and they need some information from the police department's crash report that they can submit to their insurer. And those are the kinds of requests that they come in and we get those processed and turned around as fast as possible. I think our response time is staggeringly fast. We have technically 3 weeks, 3 full weeks to respond. I think our average turnaround is less than 2 days for stuff like that's very routine. And that, again, any fee that's going to be less than $25 of work is waived. So we waive that for most fees, most requests. I would say only 10% of requests really even take longer than an hour to fulfill, but the ones that do take a very concerted effort from staff in our IT department and in various city departments, as you can imagine. And those are really the requests that consume the most time. And if they're submitted by somebody who can show demonstrable public interest, we're very limited in our ability to charge any fees at all. And so this is primarily intended, the fee itself is intended just to cover the city's costs and navigating those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You and I'd like to follow up with Council Richardson's question. You and I have had several discussions about this particular issue. Could you describe the volume of requests we get as compared to past years?
I can probably get you the exact number and I can email that to the council tomorrow. But I would say 30% of my paralegal's time is spent every day on public records requests. And that's just fine. That's sort of the name of the game when you're in a public sphere like this. And I'd like to think that we have a pretty good system going with our IT department and with the different administrative staff in every department and department heads that know that when we get a public records request, we have these statutory black and white timelines. We try our best to meet them, and we've met them every time. And so, what was your question one more time? How many?
Well, as compared to past years, I get the impression, I've talked with mayors in other cities too at conferences, and the number of requests, FOIA requests that cities are getting generally have exploded.
Yeah. Candidly, they have, and frankly, one of the things that I'm trying to work on with Amy, even though she doesn't know it yet. So, Amy, we really got to update on our website some of the more commonly requested documents and make those more accessible to the public, because obviously, somebody's personal car accident report that they just got into last week is not going to be available for the public to look at on our website. But we currently do a good job in our Public Works Department, for example, for having all of our master plans on there and getting these sort of commonly requested documents or documents that people, frankly, should just have easier access to, very public facing. And so I'd like to think about rehashing that a little bit for public records generally throughout the city to have at least some of the more commonly requested things put online. And so we're always looking for ways to minimize the number of requests that come in. But, by and large, most people are pretty okay with narrowing their request if they get an estimate from us that's like, hey, it's going to take us 85 hours to do what you're asking. But if you just put a timeline around it, like tell us you want the last 2 years of this, then it's going to cut it down to 1 hour of staff time. And you're actually going to get the thing you want, as opposed to just, a sort of a shotgun style approach.
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Kara? Okay. Anybody like to make a motion?
Is there an opportunity for the public to weigh in?
I said that already, didn't I?
Here.
Anybody from the public who would like to comment on this or ask a question? Mr. Nichols.
Roger Nichols, 1617 Oregon Street, and as a working member of the press, I'm always a little disturbed when prices go up for public access. However, in context, by explaining this is only teeny bit over maintaining the percentage of inflation that we've enjoyed in those years, it's perfectly acceptable. And I have to say that anytime I've had dealings with it, you've been superb. So you're doing a good job. Keep it up, because we don't say that often enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you could describe the process when the press requests something from public documents, for example.
Sure. Yeah. The media, news media representatives are sort of quintessential candidates for having their fee waived or certainly reduced as a result of their, let's call it, obvious ability to disseminate information of public import to the public. In fact, more so than most people, more so than any other type of industry, I think. And so, but with that said, just because somebody is a member of a news media organization doesn't mean that they get this by default. For example, I'll just pick on Mr. Nichols here for just a moment. If Mr. Nichols, and I hope this doesn't happen, gets into a fender bender on the way home and requests, body cam footage from the 2 officers that responded, and he needs that because he's got a court date coming up on that fender bender, and he needs the police report. All of that is, he'll submit a public records request, of course, and the city attorney's office will process that happily. But just to be honest, there's no public interest component of that, despite the fact that Mr. Nichols is a member of the press. With that said, the ones that we do get from the press, we have a public records policy that council adopted in 2023. Spoiler alert, I'm going to bring back some amendments to it that just to get it up to date later this year. And I'm looking at the policy now. There's a public interest component test, and there's a sort of a balance of 6 different factors that go into whether somebody's waiver should get waived under Oregon law. These aren't ones that the city or I made up. These are what Oregon law currently requires. So I'll typically look at who the requester is, the purpose for why they're intending to use the information, the character of the information, whether it's something that's typically public domain, whether the information is in the public domain, their inability to pay, and whether they can demonstrate the ability to disseminate that information to the public. On balance, you weigh those 6 factors, and if it tilts one way or the other, you'll have your answer on whether the fee gets waived. Interestingly, there's also a 6-factor test for reduction. I think it's interesting, and it's slightly different. And a fee reduction is sort of saying, hey, this is going to cost us $1,000. I know Dan wants to go, but let me just finish. It's going to cost us $1,000 to do this, and I might reduce it down to $200 if the 6 factors are balanced. And those are on page 10 of the public records policy.
You say we're going to revisit this later this year?
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Great.
Would any other member of the public care to comment or ask a question? Last call. Okay. Now I can't remember if anybody made a motion yet.
No, we haven't.
Oh,
And
okay.
I made the FUPA, so I should probably correct this one. Move to adopt resolution number 26-013 as presented. Correct? Thank you.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor McLaughlin and seconded by Counselor Richardson to adopt resolution 26013. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other business
Thank
to
you.
come before the city council? With that, we will adjourn. Thank you.